Okay, so here we are back again. Um, when we ended last time, first of all, I'm going to try to do these as an hour at a time. So we have like 1 hour at a time, kind of focus our pomo session. That's what this timer up in the corner is. You'll see it when we get down to the other size. There you go, 46. Um, so somebody heard me complaining about Ansible not having JSON output the other day, and they kindly looked it up for me and they set me straight. So let's give credit to somebody called Kubernetes on Discord. I do not know anything more about them, but they have sent me this link, which I'll put in the chat. It's in the comments below as well. Pomo timer. My Pomo timer is a Z bonsai thing. I'm gonna show you how to make one in the boost. We're gonna make one eventually. So if you want to get one, you can go get it. It's using tmux, and you have to know what that's about. Anyway, so let me grab this real quick. So this is the link to directly to how to set up a plugin, Ansible callback plugin, which I did not know existed until today. I'm brand new to Ansible. I've only used it like really seriously for 2 days now. Love it. I used to hate it. Now I love it because I don't have to think about Python. I can just write YAML and be done. Anyway, so the first thing you have to do is you have to put, you have to create a .ansible.cfg file either in your home directory or in here, and then you need to export this call, which I still need to do, so I'll do it now, into your bash RC and into your environment variables. I have a lot. I'll put Ansible here. Ansible. So this is my. I don't think I'm actually gonna use that. I think you can. Anyway, I don't know about that one. I need to have to go through a whole set of like Ansible stuff. I have to have a whole section on it because they use environment variables for a lot, and I need to go through them all. I override the inventory almost all the time, but I would like to put my Ansible configuration file. Do they have an environment variable for that? I should probably look that up. Yeah, let's look that up real quick. Ansible, because I want to have like a default that gets saved, and then I want one that goes with my kind of repos and stuff, right? So, Ansible in default inventory. Environment variable. I think it has to be in the top level. Dash I. I think it's probably better to use dash I all the time, and I said that the other day. But I want to just see if you can change it. Inventory project. The inventory file can be one of the following formats. The most common formats are ini and YAML. A basic ini might look like this. You can use YAML too. You can use YAML. Hosts, children. All. There's the same basic in YAML. Ooh, I didn't know you could use YAML. I might change mine to YAML so I only have like one thing to deal with. Because then I can query it using JQ. Yeah, or YQ. I might have to do that. Yeah. Hosts. I'm going to do that. Yeah. There are two default groups, all and ungrouped. The all contains everything. Group names, what an application does. Extending the previous YAML inventory would do what? Hosts, example. Children. What's up with children? DB servers, east, west, prod. Hosts. I'm going to use YAML from now on. Yeah, I'm going to use YAML. I am going to use YAML. Oh my god, look what you can do. Why am I not doing that? Why am I not doing that? I didn't have to write the code to do. Oh my god, this is like so cool. All right, I'm glad I looked at this. So, anyway, config Ansible hosts. I kind of want to call it like host.yaml or inventory.yaml. No, because it. Yeah, let's do inventory.yaml. Something variable. We came in here because we wanted to do other stuff. Okay, I did not know you could use YAML. Host.yaml. Yeah. I'm gonna copy that. Copy that. ls-l dot. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Config Ansible hosts. And actually, that file is now defunct. I don't need it anymore. I think it's a symlink too. ls-l. Yep. Yeah, it's in my dot files, which, yeah. I don't know if I even want that in my dot files. Kind of want that in my home. I mean, it doesn't matter. That stuff's kind of in my Homelab init. And I've already given up that detail to the public, so it's not like it's anything secret. So remove that. Copy Ansible inventory to. I mean, if I move it, then my Homelab's going to be like, I don't know where it is, kind of thing. But I want it to be usable from anywhere, you know? So let's do that. Let's actually make a symlink. Let's do that. So, yeah. Setup. Schmox setup. VI setup. Bin bash. Should I do user bin bash? EMD bash. Yeah, probably because I can do it from my Mac there too. You battle with each other. I use my own YQ. I have my own, and it's perfect. And it uses JQ internally. Yeah, if you want to go look at it, you can. GitHub.com RWX. It uses. It's actually better in my opinion because it uses JQ. It does a JQ comparison, and it's in Go, and it can be included in my bonsai monolith. So you don't have to use it, but there you go. If you want to use mine, mine's based on Go stuff, and it uses the exact same jQuery syntax. So there's no need to do anything. It literally uses the exact JQ that's built into the Go version. That's actually better. There's a better version. JQ is actually not as good as the Go version of JQ. It's more proficient, performant, which we can talk about another time. Anyway, so what are we going to do to the setup? We're going to do ln-s. I can't remember if it's from to. I think it is. Yeah, I need to go into my dot files and look at my own setup again. Yeah, let's. I don't want. I'm this Ansible stuff. I don't need. I already did this, so. All right, let's just do that. Paste that. Export Ansible config inventory. I'm actually going to put this in my Homelab and take it out of my dot files. So, because it doesn't really belong there. YAML. If you have Ansible, Ansible is installed. Skipping make directory home config Ansible ln-sf inventory.yaml to home config inventory.yaml. All right, we're going to move the. Wait. I'm going to go into Ansible and we're going to move inventory to inventory. You know, if we do this, I can actually make a scripts directory so it's not so messy. Inventory.yaml. Plus, people will know what's up. We need to remove the foos. Anyway, so inventory .yaml. Now here's what I didn't know you could do. So let's go back to the about. All right, wait, close this one up. README. The playbook studies are in Artifacts Ansible, where I can use them for other stuff. I don't need that directory. I'm getting rid of this because the only place that you need Ansible is in my Homelab, honestly. So Ansible, I git add Ansible, git commit -m, remove Ansible since in Homelab. I mean, Ansible doesn't make any sense unless you're doing multiple hosts. So, which also means that I could probably get rid of the Ansible directory. Oh, we did some core DNS stuff. Yes, we did. We need to put all that stuff. Oh, I'm glad we did this. Yeah. I'm glad we did this because reasons. Oh yeah, we gotta move all this core DNS stuff back. See, this stuff belongs in my Homelab. It doesn't belong here. So, what's our path here? Okay. No. Okay, let's do this. Let's do copy-r. Oopsie daisy. Damn it. Copy dash, is it capital R or R? I can't remember. I can never remember. Do. Why isn't it doing that? Why isn't it doing it? Copy Ansible to core DNS.yaml to Ansible. Boom. And I should probably do roles as well. Yeah. I don't know if I need that. All right, I'm going to organize this. Make directory core DNS. Move core DNS to .yaml to core DNS. Move roles to core DNS. See, now what I can do is I can do this and have my inventory be anywhere. I'm not going to have to do the -i anymore, which I probably should do, but yeah. 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 Okay. So this setup file is going to get us our link. So let's run setup. ls-l tilde.config Ansible inventory to YAML is a symlink now, and I can go back to this thing and get rid of it. rf Ansible GitHub del Ansible. Boom, repo is gone. All right, so I didn't have to go to the web browser or anything because GH is the bomb. All right, so anyway, this is lame and needs to change now. So we need to change it to the newfangled format that we now know about. I'll close one of those. How about this one? Okay. Yes, we're going to do a variable to a single host in YAML Atlanta hosts. How to add variables to inventory. What? Okay. All right. We're doing the YAML thing because I'm learning this. All, I guess we have to have all hosts. Children. What does children mean? I don't know. Why do they have the full thing in them? They don't need the full thing in them, do they? I mean, what's children here? You can find examples of organized failure inventory setup. DB servers east. Why do we have to have children? Test children west. Prod children east. Wait, what? So you can populate it with other stuff, apparently. Yeah. So, oh, I get it. So children, all is a child of all. Okay. I get it, I think. It does make me wonder. So that'd be like all dot, whatever. I feel like subgroups in the hierarchy, INI automatically does this for you when you define a group. Yeah, I don't want to. So does that mean I should put HP under here? Oh, children is subgroups. I see. So you need children for this has no subgroup, so it doesn't go there. That's only if you have a subgroup. Uh-huh. Gotcha. All right, so then we could have control. I want control. And look what I can do now, because I was an idiot yesterday. Even though I was fancy about it, I could have done this the whole fucking time. I could have done that. Yeah. Control hosts. Do they have to have anything under there? I guess not. So yeah, look at that, man. For example, like all right, so okie dokie. Control hosts, minis. I mean, it's slightly more verbose, but I think it's worth it. Mini 1 to 20, much less verbose. Yeah. And then what? Then we can do tridents, colon, trident 1 to 6. And eventually we'll have VMs, but we don't have that yet. I mean, Anton is a VM, so yeah. Anton and Callie. Anton, Callie. These are all in my host file, by the way. Yeah. So, see Etsy hosts. Actually, I need to symlink hosts as well. I need to add it to my setup. Yeah, I've been wanting to do this too. So this is a good place to store it. Yeah, copy Etsy host to here. VI hosts. We have the loopback. We have Anton and Callie. It's OpenSense. It's on my internal IPs. We're not using DNS for now. We're using host files because you get SSH, you get cap completion. You don't get that if you use DNS unless you write some sort of integration, which we haven't done, and it would take time. So it makes sense that we would have a copy of Etsy hosts here, and we would do a setup hosts. Yeah. I'm going to make a directory for it because it's getting kind of messy here. Move hosts into hosts. Did I just kill it? No. Yeah, this isn't Git, of course. Yeah, this is in my GitLab. Yeah, I don't do anything that's not stored in Git. And even if it's private, I put it in a raw private repo. because I want to be able to reproduce stuff, like not have it. It's my personal backup system. Move hosts to hosts F. Hosts, move hosts F to hosts. That way I can put a README in here about it. So, you know what I'm saying? So copy Ansible setup to here, VI setup. Make directory, no. Sudo hosts. This is destructive though, so you know, I should probably put a warning there. I think I did put that in the other one in the setup etcd. Nope, I didn't. I did not. How's it going? How you said that? Pilapali. Config pwd host goes to yeah. Huh. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. I gotta make sure I'm not gonna break anything with this. Hosts. Local host, skill stack is out of there. Follow lines are desirable for IPv6 compatible hosts. There's no IPv6 here. We don't give a shit about that. We don't do IPv6 on my network, so bye-bye. It creates a symbolic link and overwrites it. If you don't do that, it makes a hard link. So yeah, this is my default host file. So, you know, it's cool. I can actually I can push that host file to all the other servers. Yeah. I can. Like right now. Yeah, with an Ansible thing. And it's easier than setup. I'm going to set up DNS. Don't you worry your little head. So, people get out of shape about that. Setup. Oh, we must have had sudo running already. Yep. Alrighty. How am I? I am very good. I am fantastic, especially now. Look at, I took out all of that stupid IPv6 stuff, and now I can just SSH. and now, for my next trick, I'm going to. Why is skill stack in there? Why is skill stack in there? It should not be in there. Oh no, that's because of my SSH config. Yeah, that's my SSH config. That's why. Yeah, so that combines SSH config and Etsy hosts, which is cool. Okay, so continue enjoying Ansible. I am really enjoying Ansible. I will not lie. I was wrong. Ansible's awesome. As long as I don't have to deal with the Python. Insert joke there. Make dir iops move dot out to. I'm cleaning up my Homelab repo, which is getting kind of messy. IOPS. We did some IOPS stuff to do our testing. What's data.yaml? Hardware nodes. Oh. What was this for? Oh, this is me trying to manage my own YAML file, which turns out I can do in Ansible. I don't need that anymore. It was before I knew about Ansible YAML inventory files. And now it's all there. Now it's just all in my YAML inventory, my Ansible inventory. So, and my host file, I don't even need that. I'm happy. I am happy. Oh, so happy. Move log.md. All right. To big log.md because of reasons. Make directory etcd. We don't really need to do this anymore, but anyway. Install. Wait, what? Where's my etcd? Move. Install etcd to etcd. Move setup etcd to etcd. That stuff is old, and I'm not going to be doing that anymore because I was setting up etcd independently of kubeadm, which is kind of dumb. Are you making repos for it? Nice. So you have it there to go to. Isn't that bad? I've done it for work before. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Your Python. I mean, it's perfect. Honestly, I'm gonna eat my words, but it's hey, Mr. Crumbs. It's actually perfect for Python because it's really rapid. You can write it really quickly. It's more robust than Bash. So I gotta admit that the Python is the best language for Ansible because you're not leaving the computer, right? Ansible is on one computer. It has to be set up really well on that computer that you're using to do as your like central control to do all your stuff, and it doesn't suffer from all the normal problems of Python, like distribution or having it be the same version of Python or any of those things. So to tell you the truth, yeah, I'm going to eat my words here. Python is the best possible language to deploy Ansible because it allows people to extend it really quickly in ways that are, robust. It doesn't have strict typing, but it doesn't really need it because all you really need is something better than Bash and SSH. It's just one step up from that. So it's kind of Python's perfect sweet spot, honestly. And I don't like saying that because you know how I feel about some of the annoyances with Python. But in this case, I haven't hit any of them, right? Because I'm just writing Ansible YAML files, right? So live and learn. And I feel like I've learned a lot in the last few days because of this. And the story here, the takeaway is, don't be too dogmatic. If you get new information, change your mind and don't feel like your ego is going to get bruised. How about that? So yeah, I just found out that your inventory can be in YAML. Not a single person told me that I could put my inventory in YAML. If they had told me that like a week ago, I would have been way on board way earlier. But now you can do it. There it is. Not only that, but check it out. You can increment by 2. Check that out. That's a Python increment. Perfect example of why Python is good for this. So you can actually make keys that are the numbers in the range. Nobody told me that. So I'm learning some of these things on my own. Nobody told me. Actually, somebody did just tell me that you can use JSON as a callback because I was complaining about how horrible it is that you can't use JSON. Guess what? You can. It's annoying JSON, but you can definitely do it. And so yeah. I've been hacking a lot of stuff. So, did you see the JSON thing? We already covered that, but, what are we doing now? I mean, the goal was for me to get my host file and the whole thing. And then we're going to do, we have like 18 minutes left. So let's make this hour about organization of the Ansible files and of the host config and setting those things up. Okay. Because that's a few things that are going to help with everything else that we're doing. So this is the file that I'm going to change. It's got all my hosts in there. I'm going to actually make a little Ansible thing that pushes this. And we actually, how do you push a file with Ansible? How do you synchronize a file with Ansible? I'm sure it's here somewhere. Yeah, I think one of these is doing it already. Install net tools. These are all ad hocs that are wrapped in bash scripts. The swap off YAML recipe, Ansible built-in copy. Does it keep it? Yeah, I'll go look that one up. Ansible built-in copy. Does it keep it synchronized? All right, let's try it. I mean, what else can go wrong, right? We're not going to break anything. So yeah, let's go into hosts. Yeah, and let's say push to all, copy to all. Okay, copy to all. We're just gonna use ad hoc. We're gonna do. Oh, you know what? I gotta change all those other files. Yeah. I just realized I have to clean that up too. I'm doing a lot of cleanup today, so which is good. So check ports and all this stuff. I was like, oh, I want to be explicit and always put the I in there. Don't want to do that anymore. No. I want to be able to do Ansible from any place on my system anytime, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to be doing stuff all the time. So let's go ahead and get rid of this -I inventory all. Now, this, how do you get this sub thing if you don't do the inventory? I'm going to figure it out right now. Ansible -I, what is it? -I. I do wish it had its own man page, but oh well. We're going to do BK. We're going to need BK burgers for this. And module args. Module name, module args, extra vars. No. I'm using core DNS only for stuff that I want to round robin when I'm doing Kubernetes. And I'm going to set up external core DNS. We're going to, when we get to it in the kube-adm setup stuff, we'll go through that. We're not going to do that in the next 14 minutes, though. We're just doing Ansible host setup and stuff. Cleaning up stuff that I have discovered recently. Moving to INI file. Password file, inventory. Here's the thing. So -I is inventory, right? So, okay, so for positional arguments, pattern, host pattern. Oh, so it's a host and then something else. The timer's a pull-debs. That's how many minutes left we have on this session before we take an 8-minute break. It's also how long this YouTube video is going to be. Because I'm going to make the YouTube videos smaller, so they're kind of more topical. I don't know. We'll find out. People like letting the video just run though, so maybe we'll just take a break and pause the video. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, so this is all the stuff. Oh, this is what we were doing. We're talking about how to do JSON callbacks, and I was editing my bash RC, and I was like, I need to clean my inventory up. Blah blah blah. Scratch with kube-adm, absolutely. That's the only way to do it and learn it properly, in my opinion. Because how else are you going to learn CNI and ingress and all that? And so it's a pattern, apparently. In the global inventory, you can just drop the -I. Yeah, but so here's the question, Kevin. The question I have is, so Ansible, can I just do all? Does it have to be the last thing? Ping all. Unable to parse Ansible host file open source. Because it's not called Ansible if host. How did I fuck that up? Sorry for the swear word. I'll do better. I won't swear. Exec bash-l. Now it should do better, right? Okay, we're getting very close. It will look up from the default inventory. Oh, that was bad. I had a red. Wait, oh, Anton's down. Yeah. I think the Anton IP is wrong. So let's figure that out. Callie is also down because she's down. Callie is down right now. Callie is apparently a she. Ping Anton. Okay, there's an Anton. There's just no SSH. I need to do this because Anton is this machine. So SSH, copy ID, Anton. What the hell? Permission denied. You know what I need to do? I need to change the password for Anton too. I need to change all the passwords. I need to change everything on Anton. These are all different machines, yes. Give me a second, please. I need to take a moment and lock down Anton so I can get SSH to work in here. So sudo vi etc, because I didn't take time to set this up properly because it was, but now it's becoming kind of like my main system. So, which is great because it's a VM. That means I can turn it down, and the only thing that has access to all my systems is literally offline. So if I got hacked, this is what you would do. You would make sure to hack Anton. Well, if Anton's a VM that's not turned on, you have no access to any of my other systems because the keys only exist on Anton. That also means that I need to back up Anton because if Anton dies, I lose. It's like losing the head off my entire Homelab. I can't get into anything else without resetting everything. So, but it's extremely secure to do that way, because then when I'm not working on my lab, this is kind of a cool discovery. When I'm not working on my lab, I can suspend or freeze Anton, right? So Anton is kind of Jarvis, yeah, not really. It's the Silicon Valley reference. Yeah, Anton can't talk, unfortunately. Yeah, poor Anton. SSH d config. The Bastion, is the thing that locks it down? There's a thing called Bastille that we used to use. Cluster machines used to unique entry point. Mechanical authorizations. Very cool. Cool. One access listed. Power user Bastion Grid Plus servers. That looks pretty cool. But I'm just going to use Ansible because I want to get good with Ansible. That's very cool, though. Copy. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Password authentication. No. Override settings on per user basis. Password authentication. No. We need key-based authentication. I don't want to lock myself out of my own system. I got to be careful with this. So, SSH Anton, what's up? Why can't Anton? I need to get the keys on here. Permission by public key. Oh, you know what? I have to just copy the key over, actually. This is much easier than I'm making it. I feel silly. I do. I feel very silly. SSH. Wait. Cat. Let's see. Pub key. And we'll copy this. VI SSH authorized keys and paste that. Oopsie. And now we should SSH in downtown. Should work. It's weird because it's the same machine, but it works. Yeah. That's all I had to do. Okay, so I should probably freeze and copy this VM right now. Just cause Ansible connection to localhost. Yeah, it's okay. I don't mind it being remote because Anton might not be, I don't mind it being using SSH for them. Anyway, so that all came about because of the ping fail. So let's do it again. And everything should be success. Okay, but it's still not doing something that I want it to do all the time. And we're going to deal with that. Now, this is nice and colorful and everything, and it shows you what it's doing as it's doing it. But we want this. I want Ansible load callback plugins equals 1. And we want to have this to be true. So I kind of want this to be on all the time. Does anybody know if there's a way to set the Ansible.cfg, change the location of it? Or is it just by default always look in the same place? Standard location of .ansible.cfg. We're wrapping up here on this segment. Ansible configuration file, generating example, avoiding security risks in the current directory. What? Ansible is loaded in a worldwide writable directory would be a serious risk. Could place their own config file there. Yeah, that's stupid. For Vagrant, ugh. WSL, ugh. Disable connect for configuration file. Oh, there we go. Changes can be made and using configuration file, which should be searched in the following order. Configure variable set. Ansible config. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I like being explicit in my bash RC, so that's what I'm gonna do. This stuff also propagates with me no matter what system I go on, so I don't have to, I knew there was something. I just could feel it. I could feel it in my bones. Config. Look at that. Look at that. How cool is that? Can it be YAML instead of TOML? Please let it be YAML instead of TOML. I doubt it. The configuration file is one variant of an INI file. Both the hash and semicolon are allowed as common markers. Sigh. All right, so it has to be INI. Therefore, I will call it .ini. Yep. That's what I'm going to do. And then, S-A. Wait, what? Move.ansible CFG to, well, no, I don't want to do that, do I? I don't. I don't want to do that. I want to go back in Ansible and, damn it, did I move it already? To config.ini. And I'm going to change setup. Home config Ansible into repository directory, and config.ini goes to Ansible config.ini. I can actually run this. Watch, you want to see something cool? Bang bang bash. I'm just going to run it from right here. It should work. Maybe not. I guess we'll find out. Well, while we're here, since we're here, we'll go ahead and copy in case it didn't work. ls-l .config Ansible. There we go. Config.ini is pointing to this one. So config.ini, default's been whatever the hell, exec bash -l. And now if I ping, I should actually get JSON output. Nope, I failed. What did I do? I forgot something. I did. Oh, you know what it was? I got sidetracked. Oh no, I got it right there. What the hell? Plug equals 1, plug is true. Wait a second. Wait a gold darn minute. Wait a minute. Execute bash dash l. It should work. It's not doing it. It's not doing it. It's not doing JSON like it was before it. Yeah. Echo Ansible. Oh, config. Okay. Ansible load callback plugins is one. And telemetry, no, that's working. Why is it not working? It's supposed to do JSON output now. And it's not. You can use Ansible doc-t callback-l. Ansible, okay. Ansible, we're kind of over our time, but that's okay. Ansible doc-t callback-l. Ansible doc-t callback-l. Oh God. Grep JSON. JSO. Ansible POSIX JSON. Ansible screen output in JSON. That's what I want. So what am I missing? What am I missing? No, I already got it working, and now I'm just trying to get it work for everything as a default. But it's already working. Oh, there it is. Ansible stud out callback. Yeah. Yep. I found it. I was missing something. Equals JSON. Now all the things are JSON all the time. Okay, this, I'm pretty sure this will work. Pretty sure. Now the difference is of course I didn't exec it. Now it will work. The problem is that because it's a single JSON object, it doesn't give you any status while it's running. So you only get the total job status. So you might want to override that, but I would rather have this than and know exactly what I'm dealing with all the time. I'll just put it into out. Yeah, because I don't care if it's gonna, if it gets hung on something. I mean, if I had a problem with a job, I might want to watch it while it was happening, but otherwise, no. You know what I mean? So, yeah, out.json. And this is exactly what I was looking for. So it gives you the overall stats. You have the plays, the duration, how long the task took. This is so cool. I mean, if you want to automate things with Ansible, automate deployments and stuff with Ansible, this is a mandatory thing. Because otherwise, how are you going to report on it in any kind of web interface or anything if you want to do that, right? There are some annoyances here. For example, you have to do two entries with 2 underscore entries in JQ to get this because it doesn't include the name in the data, which is totally stupid. But yeah. So, see, watch. We can go look for this. Also, I already have a thing that cleans this up. Yeah, here's an example of it right here. Oopsie. I'm going to run that. Oopsie. We need to run it on out.json. See that? Isn't that cool? So that parses the JSON into this like beautiful output. Hey, Twisted Seed. And that parses it into this like beautiful output. But it's quite convoluted. If JSON had not, if the designers of the JSON plugin were not dumb, I don't mean they're dumb, but if they had thought about it, they should. Yeah, you can put it in Grafana, you can put it in anything. So if they hadn't done it, you wouldn't have had to do this. So what this does is it adds. You only have to do this 2 entries thing, It's really lame, but it adds a dot key and a dot value to malformatted JSON. I'm going to call it malformatted. Let's just call it what it is. It's malformatted JSON that has the only key is the name. So the only way for you to get the name, they should have put the name as a value. They should have had name : here as well redundantly so that people could do that. They think they're being nice and cool. It's almost, you almost never want to do this, by the way. You almost never want to do this because you never know. How are you going to use your name as a key? They should have made it an array and then had people go through it like anybody else in like a database query. It's like having a database query where there's no key in the table. So you have to do a 2 entries conversion, which changes this into key : this and value : this. And then you can do stuff with it. It was annoyance. It took me 20 minutes to look it up earlier. But it's doable. So you have to do 2 entries and then you get all the entries, and then you just want to look up the key and combine it with the value. And then you can get that. This is just a concatenate. So yeah, and there's a Zet on this that I wanted to write about. So yeah, so we ran into a lot of things here, mostly because I went to go change the environment variables and learned a bunch of stuff there, forcing JSON output. So we've got that done. Oh wait, we missed one thing in that Zet edit last. This is in my Zet directory. It's all my notes and stuff. So not only do we need that one, but we need export Ansible stud out callback equals JSON. Ansible stud out callback equals JSON. We're going to add that. So now, yeah. All right. Good times. Okay, so that's how you make all your output in Ansible into JSON. I don't want to ever see it if it's not JSON. I don't, because I don't care, otherwise what can I do? I can't do anything with the data, and I'm already living in JQ land all day, every day because of kubectl, or kube control, whatever you want to call it. All right, so that's gone. This is gone. Host file, we already got that set up. I think we're about ready to take a break, and then we'll be back to, we're going to push the host file. Let's do that, and then we'll take a break. Let's push the host file. Yeah, we were going to make an Ansible rule for pushing a host file, and somebody actually showed us how to do that in the chat. They got the copy. Thank you, Playing Risky. So for that, we're going to do, yeah, backseating is totally allowed. In this, I should probably put it in the thing. So this host file is copied. I need to put some warnings in here in my readme.md. Universal home lab hosts file. By having an etc hosts file, perhaps in addition to a DNS server, you get SSH tab completion that you would not otherwise. So we're going to push it. Run setup to replace the SE host file on the current system with a symbolic link to this host file. All right. Or written in the future. Oh yeah, I always add warnings. Yeah, that will host-based firewall. My firewall's good enough. My OpenSense firewall's awesome, so I'm not afraid. Plus, I can log all the It's so great at finding people that are trying to hack you. It is so good. It tattletales on them. It shows where they came from. It stores it in a log. It informs you. Sends you an alert. There's so many things you can do with it. Yeah, it makes me feel a lot safer at home writing. You know, I don't even care if people have my IP anymore. So set up. All right. And then we need copy to all. So Ansible, we don't need inventory anymore. We need so dash. Let's import facts. We don't need that anymore. So we need to do dash m. Can I just do copy? Ansible built-in is already there. So it's like ping. I think I could just do copy. Let's try it. A. This is the argument. Source equals hosts space dest equals etc hosts owner. Oh, we have to set permissions, right? Yeah. Yes. God, I'm glad you mentioned that, because if I hadn't set up owner, then there's a risk that I mean, you would think that that would be the way, but being explicit about it, I think, is important. I like that you're putting that in there explicitly. That's really good practice. 0644. Commented this before, but have you considered playing around with AWX? No, I hate it. I'm not using it. No, I have a 30 node Kubernetes cluster on prem. Why would I ever use it? I have no desire to use AWX ever. Unless you want to work with it, I never do. If I did anything, it would be getting good with GCP because I have to because of work. But even then, I don't want to use cloud, period. I have my own stuff. The only reason I would ever use cloud stuff is if I had something I wanted to put in the cloud, like a public-facing Kubernetes cluster, which is asking to get destroyed. It's funny, my viewers just dropped off by 3 because I said that. Go watch Het or somebody who wants to do AWS, or Al, whatever his name is, Alt F stream or whatever. There's a lot of people who do cloud stuff. I don't like cloud, period. I just don't like it. I use it, but only when I have to. Okay. Multiple Ansible commands. You should start using Ansible playbooks. Of course. I know this already. This doesn't need a playbook, though. You're talking about to be able to combine them all, right? Yeah, because right now I can't compose them together, right? Right now I can't compose them together. I see that's like a growing pain. Oh, I didn't do become on this. Yeah, because eventually, I mean, all of these things, I'm eventually going to want to do all of those things at one time on a new lab, right? But for now, I'm just like ad hocing one of them at a time. It's just easier for me to get into it, honestly. But I totally am on board with what you're saying. Yeah. Ansible Tower. Oh, AWX. I have no idea what that is. What is AWX? The AWX project for short is an open source community project sponsored by Red Hat. Yeah. That enables users to better control their community Ansible project using IT environments. Upstream project commits an automated controller component is ultimately derived. Modern web UI and API to manage your organization's Ansible playbooks, inventories of Vault, and credentials. What Vault does it use? To me, it sounds like Red Hat lock-in. It sounds like, I'm reading it. It sounds like Red Hat lock-in. I'm not interested at the moment. I might be later. And plus, it's a web interface. I've never used it. I know. It's like, I'm going to use Keycloak for instead of Vault. But it's probably worth learning. There's no lock-in. Yeah. Well, what's Vault? I think it's an alternative to Keycloak. company services access repository secrets, and yeah, including rotation, releasing revocation secrets in the vault. With the vault operator, it's easier for Kubernetes users to come forward. Yeah, and we don't use vault. Yeah, I don't want vault. We use keycloak for that, and it's separate. We don't have an operator for it. Yeah. I think it's vault is a secure location for storing, retrieving, blah. And we use something. Well, I don't want to. I probably shouldn't get too detailed in that stuff. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. God, I hate playbooks. I do. I don't like playbooks, I'll have to admit, but I'm getting warming up to them. Okay. What are we doing? Copy to host. Look at it to understand it. I already know enough to know that I don't want to waste time looking at it any further. So Ansible, I was like, okay, let's look at it. So, yeah. AWX is like a fancier way to manage all of your stuff. So you have like a centralized way to manage all your playbooks and everything. It's like great. You know, it's like a dashboard for, is it not? Is it not a dashboard for Ansible stuff? I'm not going to use Ansible that much to do that. Would I ever use Ansible in enterprise and want to set that up for our overall enterprise? Possibly, but not in my home lab. If I were to ever, seek out an opportunity to work in that way, I probably would do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. And so, I mean, I could be convinced, but right now it's going to take me away from my command line and give me extra shit I have to do that I don't want to manage. So that would be a no for now. All right. So the idea of having multiple playbooks, though, I can see that. I mean, as soon as you get the playbooks, they start growing and growing and growing, and you want a place to put them all. And I imagine that's just a nice way to manage all that stuff. And that's good. That's good. Eventually, do need that. Right now, it's just a Git repo. I have a problem. Oh, I got rid of my all. That need a central automation platform consists of CR by controls and audit trails. Right. And that would not be my home lab. Hence my decision. So copy task has extra params which allow the following. Let's see. This task copy has extra params which is only allowed in the following modules. Let me look closer. I'm going to look closer at the path. So, am I missing commas? M copy. Access source copy. Group root. Oh, there we go. Good. You got it. Thank you for noticing. All right. We're going to take a break after this. No inventory is parsed. Unable to read Ansible hosts. All right, fine. Give me a sec. I have to get out of tmux so I can load a new bash RC. And now I'll get back into tmux. I don't know why that one does that every time, but it does. All right, so yeah, Ansible dot slash. What were we doing? Oh, it's not in Ansible. It's in hosts. I don't know if I should put hosts under Ansible or not. Probably not. Now it's going to do JSON data. So this is a case where I might not want it. Maybe. What is the command? I might actually want to do the JSON data so I can watch it happening. Ansible stud out callback. Okay, so there it goes. Change 0, failures 1. All right. So predefined topics. Nice. This would be a no. Here, watch. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do unset Ansible stud out callback. I kind of want to see the errors as they're happening now. And now it should be the shit. There we go. It says it changed it. Anton was success. Callie was unreachable. Can you omit a thing? Because it did them all except for Callie. Yep. State file UID 0. It looks like it did them all. You know, I can tell that I am changing my mind on something. I can tell that the JSON data output is going to be a problem. So I'm going to make it an option. For reasons that are obvious. You know what I mean? So yeah. So we go to host file again. Hi, how are you doing? Need to escape. Let me try it again. So we're copying a file over using just ad hoc, which is bad practice, I know, but I'm new to Ansible, so it's fine for now. We just set up a host file and all the stuff, so I can go to mini1 now, and I can SSH tab, and I get all of my things. How easy was that? I mean, really, I would have done SCP and written my own little bash script before. So on that front, Ansible definitely has bought, you know, sold me. I mean, has whatever. Convinced me to use it. Showing all, Callie may not work, ignoring Callie. All, is that a thing? You can do that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Copy to all except Callie. There. Let's see if we get a nothing to do. Oh boy. That would be a no. Oh, I know. Maybe it needs this. I don't know. Let's just try. Let's try a different thing. It sounds like I'm going to have to learn about Ansible Patterns. Yeah. Yeah. And speak of the devil, somebody sent it to me. Copy link address. Let me put it in my log. Yeah. So related. We're going to put this in here. Okay, so copy to ID. Hey, this is good. I'm doing this at my Homelab. I would never do this. Oh, Ermagerd. Looks good to me. Oh, 100% success. Yeah. All right. So I just deployed my favorite Etsy host file so I can get my SSH completion to everything. SSH tab, and I get all of my beautiful little hosts in my Homelab right over there in that rack. And now I can do fun things like, I don't know, go onto them and do things. Trident 1. I have a feeling I'm going to do most things just from here. If you're wondering about the profile in BashRC, that's all going to get fixed when we set up NFS mounts. Yes, I'm going to use old school NFS mounts for my home directory like we've been using since the 90s. I don't care. It's what we do at work, and it's what a lot of people do. I know it's slow, but it's the best way to do a shared drive for a multi-Unix system. We used to do it with NFS, NIS kind of thing, that combination. Nobody uses NIS anymore, but whatever. So I have to do that yet. We haven't done that, but that's the kind of thing we can do attitude because of all this. Forget how to force the JSON output. Reorganized all my Homelab. Reorganized this Homelab directory. Added set up scripts for hosts and dot, let's see, tilde dot config dot ansible. What else did we do this round? My Homelab, $30,000. But I already spent the money. It's a long story. I went through that story yesterday. You can go watch the video from yesterday if you want to go find that story. I showed the whole thing, and I went through my sob story about working for SkillStack and got all emotional looking at pictures of kids that are in college now. Yeah, that's the short version. The short version is that all of that hardware over there is hardware I acquired for a business in 2013 all the way through whatever, 2018, 2019. And then I had it. It's been sitting. I actually donated most of the equipment to a charity that didn't do anything for a year with it. I said, can I have it back? And they said, fine. So I took it all back, and now it's over here. It's been sitting. It's been sitting around going unused completely. 30 grand worth of hardware has been sitting around being completely unused. And so I said, fine, I'm going to invest, actually take off about 5. I'm going to invest about three grand on racks and PDUs and stuff and the VM server, and I'm gonna make it so that I can use this other 20 grand worth of stuff that's just sitting. So now I have this big ass rack with all this stuff in it. That's how I got the money for that. I still have the debt for that too, by the way. Yeah. So I mean, and I've been paying down that business debt for a while. I mean, the business was very successful, but it's a long, sad story I don't want to get into. Mostly has to do with 1% entitled real estate assholes. And they decided to kick me out for no reason of my place of business, and I couldn't recoup from that. That's exactly what happened. And yeah, they said, we want the space. We've decided to go a different direction after they promised a 5-year lease, and I dropped $15K on game servers. I didn't get it in writing, and then they said, no, we've changed our mind. He went back and talked to his wife and kicked me out. He kicked me out, and then I had no place to live because I lived above it, and I also had no place to work because that was my business. And I was immediately forced to move into a house and try to run my business out of the house and get everybody. It was a disaster because of 1% assholes who lie. And when I told them, I said, you really ought to practice your empathy. He goes, I don't do empathy. That was a true story. That's my sob story. That's actually how I got this machine. But you know what? In a good way, guess what? I wouldn't be streaming right now if it hadn't happened. You would not be watching me right now if that had not happened. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think you should quote that. Okay, so on that note, let's take a break. So YouTubers, you will not see a break because I'm just going to pause you. Okay. Pause. All right, so we're back from our break, and we are back to the Kubernetes website. We are going to do the documentation installation officially using the Kubernetes documentation that's available from the certification exam. There's lots of other sources for this. I don't care. If you want to tell us about that, that's fine. Or you want to share it with the community, that's fine. I am not using anything from my Kubernetes installation that's not available to me on the Kubernetes certification exam, period. And the reason for that is primary, and that includes using a web interface, a graphic web interface instead of the terminal, which is not allowed. I can't use links from the terminal if I want to get certified. You have to do this. This is the only thing you can look at. It's out of date. It has problems, but I want to encounter those things now while I'm going through this stuff. So 1, I can submit change tickets for that documentation. And 2, it says create an issue, right? And 2, I'll understand when there's something insignificant or a problem that's not clear, and I'll clear it up so that when I encounter it on the test, for example, and I read it, it's not the first time. If you go through and you do Udemy course or something like that, or you read some book on Kubernetes or some other method, this stuff will be foreign to you if you come to it the first time. So I'm deliberately doing this stuff first. All right. And we've already done a lot of this. So we've already done a lot of this stuff. Okay, we've already done. Whoa! Oh, my fan fell. I have a fan under my chair to keep my bum nice and cool. I know you didn't want to know that. Anyway, so the pod network plugin you may use requires certain ports to be open. Right? We did all of these things. We wrote Ansible plays, ad hoc jobs for all of this stuff, which was fun. Eventually, they should be playbooks, as somebody recommended. But for right now, we have them. So guess what? It's time to start installing a runtime container runtime on everything. So once again, we're going to be trying to use Ansible here. We're going to use ad hoc. There's probably a playbook that does this already. I don't want it to be so magical that I can't do it from the command line. So this is what I propose we do. We go ahead and install a container runtime from scratch on one of the control planes, on the primary control plane. And then we'll consider making an Ansible playbook for everything else, or ad hoc job, whatever. And let's do that. So we have to make a decision on playbook on runtimes. This is a long-standing debate in the cloud-native world. What is the best container runtime? My experience has been that, first of all, we're not using Docker because it's proprietary. It's no longer supported. So the closest thing to Docker, these are, yes, it's Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a container orchestration framework. So the answer is yes, we are using containers. We're not using Docker containers. They don't call Docker containers anymore, right? Docker, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't exist anymore. It became a proprietary mess of a company that the founder left, and I want nothing to do with them at all. So neither does the Kubernetes project for the most part. They won't say it like that, but I mean, let's be real. So I am not going to use Docker, period. So that means I need to figure out whether I want containerd, which is still maintained by the Docker project, or we want to use cri-o, cri-o, which stands for Container Runtime Interface. So just long story short, Kubernetes, in order to get off of Docker, abstracted the Container Runtime Interface and then provided a shim for Docker, which refused to fulfill that. Still to this day, they didn't want to do it. They came up with other things. Which CRI? We're going to look at that. That's what I'm talking about right now. So the CRI from the Podman from Red Hat, which is the container runtime interface -o, that is the one that's used by OpenShift. That's the one that people are using. It has the lightest weight runtime. But if you want to compare them, we should probably do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Which container runtime should I use? It's important to know that some of these container runtimes do not have, some of them don't, these container interfaces don't have a runtime at all. And they're more efficient and stuff, and you can go look at that, right? So I think this is a link here. I hate this stuff, but whatever. So here we go. Docker shim has been removed Kubernetes, so you cannot use the Docker CE edition anymore. You need to install a container runtime in each node in the cluster so the pods can run there. The thing about having a runtime, container runtime, versus being able to use Docker on that endpoint. So this is a really common practice in enterprise that I hate. They can't run Docker, at our company, you can't run Docker on your desktop and you can't run it on our jump boxes. So the only way to get Docker, you can run it inside of Kubernetes if we've finally figured that out. But a lot of people in the administration group would log in as root on a control plane and run Docker from there. And that's just fucking horrible. I'm going to use that word. I see people do it and tell me to do it all the time. And I'm like, that is such a disastrously bad thing to do. I will never do it. And I refuse. I refuse to do that. I think it's really bad administrative practice. Not to mention the fact that you're recommending people do that as a standard process. It's not. It's a horrible procedure. So we're not going to do that. And by the way, if you put cri-o and some of these other things on there, you can't even do that because there's no Docker interface to run. If you saw Podman, which I think comes with cri-o by default, you can do that. But otherwise, you can't, right? So, and that's what we want. We don't want people logging in with SSH onto our machines and running Docker from there. I don't know. I mean, I have mixed feelings though, because I just thought about it. Sometimes you might want to have them go there and see what's wrong with the jobs and something, and sometimes you need to go, peek under the covers of Kubernetes and see what's going on with the containers. Usually you're just looking at logs and stuff, but sometimes you actually want to see, well, what's up? Why are these pods messed up? But almost always you don't want to directly mess with containers managed by Kubernetes, and you can get some really bad problems. We in Kubernetes 1.21, we had a problem though because it would leave container entries around, and they would kind of become these like phantom container entries that would cause all kinds of problems, and especially that you can use cri-tl to talk directly to container runtime. Nice. That's good. That's probably LBG. That's probably the one we're going to go with. So Kubernetes 1.25 requires that you have a runtime that conforms to container CRI. So we are not running 1.25. I think we're running 1.24. 1.24 is the LTS release. But you know, as far as I know, they don't have LTS releases in Kubernetes, do they? I mean, that does make me wonder which one we're going to install. The Docker shim is in 1.24. I think we're going to install 1.24. Yeah. Yeah, containerd is also supported. Yeah. CKA has containerd. Why? Docker and Kubernetes container runtime. I didn't know about that one. Do we have to use containerd on the certification? I don't want to use it. Well, here's the thing. Okay. I mean, there's nothing that says, look, let's do this. Let's put containerd on the Tridents, and we'll put cri-o on the Macs. And that way I'll have both container runtime engines on this stuff so I can learn how to manage both. Yeah, they don't use Docker, of course not. I'm using Helm charts 1.24 as a good cause. Latest occasionally, yeah. 1.24, yeah, I agree. Try that in my firm. We use Docker, so you use containers. Yeah. So you can do cri-o, it doesn't matter, commands are the same. For the CK, well, it's a different, I don't think the commands are the same. The commands for the installation are probably the same. But the interface is different, as LBG just said, right? You have like, yeah, you can use cri-ctl for both containerd and cri-o. Did not know that. This is why we're asking questions. This is good. All right, so yeah, I mean, look, I don't install container runtimes every day. This is the reason I have a lab, right? It's also the reason that you don't want to use the cloud for this shit, right? And unless, I mean, if you're using a Kubernetes cloud that's already predefined, you don't have to install a container runtime on it. I mean, you can always like just spin up a VM that doesn't have anything on it and then set up your own thing using kubeadm if you want to do this with the cloud without doing it on-prem. But you're going to be paying the money for that. You need probably at least 6 nodes, by the way, which at current rates is going to be 6 times 5 is $30, $40 a month. Right? So if you want to do this in the cloud, you can do it with a minimal amount of things. I don't know if we can use cri-ctl for cri-o. I think cri-ctl, well, we don't know what that is, okay? So let's look that up. What is cri-ctl? First time I've ever heard of it. So you probably haven't heard of cri-ctl. I Googled it. There's a single blog entry about it. The closest I can find is blip is Kubernetes docs and debugging modes. Finally, I can think to be the first in the world to write something about how I feel about it. It says it's a command line interface for any CRI compatible container runtime. That means we can use it. Very good news. Yep. Okay. That's the reason we want the Kubernetes project to put their foot down on 1.25 and say, look, if you're not following CRI, get out, because we, want to have standard tools. Yeah, you can use anything. So we could use cri-o in the thing. All right. So I already know I'm going to pick cri-o because why? So that is the lightest weight, actually. And there's a bunch of stuff here we have to do. We already did all the forwarding stuff. We'll come back to this in a second. Bye. My wife's taking off for the day. System DC group driver. This is all installation stuff. We don't need this. So let's go. I want to see. There's a comparison of them. And I'm trying to find a better comparison. Yeah, they're trying to sell me something on this blog. Container runtime is the thing that runs containers, right? We're not going to get into what containers and virtual machines are. That you should know that already. High-level question, brief history of runtimes. Let's see. This actually looks pretty good. Put that in here. Yeah. Yeah. Chose, let's see, reviewed container runtimes and CRI. Okay. And my specification, C Omni. Yeah, and then we have low-level container runtimes responsible solely for blah. There are a number. Okay, so the C run container runtime project by Red Hat written in a C language. So they all have an underlying runtime that they put into them. Written in Rust, it's now deprecated. Railcar got deprecated because it was written in Rust. What a surprise! The above mentioned runtimes are all native Init runtimes. They run the containerized processes to the host kernel. gvisor, runv, clear, container runtime, high-level runtimes. Docker shim is dead. Containerd is the most popular container runtime engine. It is managed, developed, and used by Docker, which is why I don't want to use it. It uses runs under the hood. Sierra. I mean, I don't know who I hate more, Docker or Red Hat. So, I mean, Docker did a total fucking bait and switch. Hey, yeah, we promise Docker will be free until it's not, and now enterprises have to pony up. It, you know, whatever. It uses runc under the hood for container execution. cri-o was specifically designed for Kubernetes by Red Hat. And Red Hat has been open about their making you pay kind of from the beginning. They didn't bait and switch you. cri-o is the CRI implementation that enables using any OCI compatible runtime. No, Docker's not free. Docker hasn't been free for half a year. They gave you a grace period to adjust. It's free if you're a private citizen or if you're not doing it for anything at work, which is not most people. So we've been mandated to not use it at work. So a lot of people have. If my company were going to start paying for it, they would be paying several tens of thousands of dollars probably for licenses. If everybody, maybe not, but it would be bad. It's news for you that Docker's not free. Okay. You might want to look at that. I'm sorry to laugh, but well, specifically Docker Desktop. Yeah, Docker Desktop, which is, by the way, you know what Docker Desktop is? Anybody know? Docker Desktop is QEMU and KVM running Docker and a nice fancy interface front end on it. That's all it is. Yep. All right, so Docker on Linux is still free. This is true. This is true. There's a Photon app. I think it actually might be Electron, I think you mean. Portainer, who cares about Docker Desktop? A lot of people. Yeah. I know a lot of people who use Docker Desktop. They're machine learning people, though. Turns with your UFO download for IRC, yeah. Yeah, look, you can go look at it. The fact that they didn't charge anything for it and then they started charging for it makes me mad. That's all. I wish they, this forever free stuff. No, forget it. If you work at Docker, that's not the deal. Plus, it's a mess. The whole Docker internals has always been a mess. It's always been a mess. That's the reason Kubernetes is so focused on getting off of it. They said, we don't want our fate tied to Docker. So, look, I have strong opinions there. I could probably change those opinions if given new information, but that's where I stand. I've been playing with Podman for last week. It's almost on par with Docker. I know it's come a long way. I know it has. My first experience with Podman was not good. The only positive thing I'll say about Podman is that Podman does assume that your containers are going to have systemctl support, obviously, because Red Hat. So your containers, I did this last year. Last year I was trying to emulate Kubernetes and containers, which is stupid. I was trying to do storage class checking, so I should have just used kubeadm and set up my own cluster, which is what I'm doing now. But at the time, I learned that Podman assumes a different use case for containers. Podman, you can go read about this. It's super interesting. Podman directly assumes that people are going to use containers as replacements for machines to the level where you can do a systemctl install and you can do sudo apt install and stuff like that. You've always been able to do sudo apt install, but you haven't been able to do systemctl commands, right? So Podman by default puts all of that stuff into its containers. So like when you run a container like on a bunch of server container, it will put in like systemctl and all this other stuff. So if you want containers that act more like real machines, Podman is better for that. Podman's got a lot of negative other things, but these days it's like pick from, best. Builda and Scopio are awesome, and those are Red Hat tools, and so I could be convinced to use Podman, especially from the whole. The only reason that I don't like Podman is I can't export the Docker container and have a container be outside of the container and do stuff inside of the container as well. There's like a nice happy separation that does, because it uses the Docker socket. And I liked the Docker socket, to tell you the truth. I liked it because it allowed me to do things between the systems that I couldn't do before. I think you can probably still do it with Podman, but it's an annoyance because Podman is more secure and doesn't allow you to do those things. Yeah, exactly what Docker does. No, it doesn't. It'll run it, but it doesn't do it. It doesn't run it in the same way. For example, no, you can't. You absolutely cannot replace Docker with Podman. That is a lie. Most of the commands are the same commands, but if you have built a system that depends on the socket, your stuff will break. And I have that. So here, let me show you. I made a workstation. So here we go. So this is a script that I wrote in Perl some time ago that manages multiple workspaces. I call them container workspaces. And I can use it to spin up a workspace and have it automatically mount the directory and save it in my config file. And I wrote this last year. It works really well. And it's a great way of having multiple different images that are synchronized and that save stuff, right? But it fundamentally depends on, and it uses, the Docker command. Usually people will alias Docker to Podman these days, as LBG is saying. And I think that that's good. I mean, it's gotten a lot. It used to be that would break. I've had that break on me a couple times when I tried to do it with Podman because it wasn't compatible, but maybe they fix this. I feel like there's going to be a way to do it. So, and then it would run the container, and then it would actually, see this here? It would mount Docker run socket. You know why? Because that allows you to run Docker inside of Docker. And I don't know, LBG, have you looked at that at all? Can you run Docker inside of Podman? Inside of Docker Podman? I think you can, because you used to not be able to do that. So this is really cool. This is a cool hack that, as far as I know, you can't do with Podman. What this does is it mounts var run socket, this same Docker socket. It does that? Okay, good. This is some magic that some people would frown on, but it's really nice if you're working on the same system and you only want to manage one Docker instance on the whole system. So let's say you're running a host Docker, right? Or Podman or whatever, a container runtime on your VM or your laptop or whatever, right? And you want to run a container that's got a Ubuntu server in it, or Kali, or Arch. And inside of that machine, the container machine, whatever you want to call it, you also want to use Docker in there. But you don't want to have to set up a Docker inside of it. You want it to use the host Docker. So it's kind of an inception thing, right? You want to be able to access the host Docker. So you're using Docker, but you're using exactly the same Docker runtime that you'd use to start it up. Oh, I know it's not secure, but it's a really, really convenient thing to do on a workstation. In CI systems, it should never be done. But when you give privs to pods, yeah, you should look. These are not things that you should do in production in a CI/CD thing, but they are super convenient when you're working on a bunch of containers locally and you don't want to blow up your REM. The alternative to that, if you're doing a lot of container development, the alternative to that is to set up a full Docker instance inside of the machine that you got to by running Docker. And so you have Docker in Docker, and sometimes you can't even do it. Podman system service start listing on the socket and have Docker compatible API. Yeah, Podman system service does that. Okay, there's also a lot of progress in rootless space. You can run a Podman container as non-privileged user. Yeah, and the non-privileged stuff is super important. We've been trying to get stuff to run in Kubernetes as non-privileged for a long time, just to be able to run containers in Kubernetes, which is you think it would be obvious, but it's not. like if the equivalent of like using kubectl and like firing up a pod that's got Docker in it that you can do Docker builds and Docker container stuff is not immediately obvious how to do that. You can do it, but it's quite a hassle. That's probably the best way to go about it, though. In fact, when we get one of the first things I'm going to do when we get to Kubernetes after Kubernetes is installed here is we're going to start making Kubernetes workspaces. So a Kubernetes workspace to me, so let's say rather than SSH, the old days you would SSH into a server, right, and you'd work on the server and do things, right? Well, if you're working in an enterprise that's got a Kubernetes cluster, and they don't let you run Docker, or they don't even let you run Linux, right? And you want control of a Linux system on a terminal that you can do all your coding from and stuff, and especially if they have like NFS mounts or something like that. So you have storage across all pods. Then you can actually you can kubectl and fire up a pod. You can make a container, put it in your internal registry, and you can customize it however you want, and you can fire that thing up and connect to it with kubectl. You just do kubectl run pod, and boom, you're in. And it fires up a pod just like you were starting up a Docker container, and you're in there. And not only that, but now you're one of many pods that are running on a supercomputer-ish kind of thing instead of on your home desktop. So if you want to do compilation or you're trying to build things and stuff like that, you've got all of the power of whatever that node is, and you can say, hey, I want to use this high performance machine over here, or I want to use this other machine. You can actually set up a taint or something, and you can write. So as a person just using the computer from the terminal, it's another reason to get good with the terminal, by the way. So if you want to do development, you want to do compilation you want to like write a compiler pod, right? You can go into Kubernetes and compile on that really hefty CPU over there, and you could just live on there. And then any modern engineering team now, DevBox. I haven't looked at DevBox. Is DevBox another one of these things? Yeah, Dev Workstation in the cloud. An Azure server that gives developers access to ready project-specific dev boxes that are pre-configured. Yeah. And if you're not building, this is the same idea as Kubernetes. You don't need it with Microsoft, but something like that is kind of cool. So I don't know why I did that, but yeah. So you can, and of course, if you're doing compilation, right? And I mean, you can use like Conan in the container, but you can do it in Kubernetes to compile C code, for example. I know we're almost burned up a whole hour here, but I think this is important because we are talking about containers, container runtimes, and what to do with them and how to use them. DevBox is not free. You can easily use something like DevBox just in Kubernetes, just by making a container and using. You just have to make the container Kubernetes aware, and that's one of the biggest things nobody told me when I got started. A Kubernetes container is way different than a Docker container. They're both containers and they're both compatible and everything. But when you run a container as a pod inside it, or it's complicated, that's an oversimplification, inside of Kubernetes, you have to, for example, it has to have a running looping thing. And there's a bunch of tricks to make your standard container do that. You just wait forever and sleep so that it stays up. Otherwise the pod will just go down. And then you have to, figure out how to connect to it and stuff. So that's one of the reasons I have this over here, because we're going to do all of that here. I just have to get the container installed, then we have to get Kubernetes up. So yeah, container runtimes Kubernetes. I'm just going to tell you, we're going to use cri-o because that's what we're using at work. We're talking about going to cri-o. We are using Docker CE, I think, right now, and we're planning on getting off of it and going to cri-o. We actually are in the middle of testing cri-o, so this is legitimately something I need to do for work. You might agree that Kubernetes is a complex platform. Hell yeah. We're going to get rid of that. I don't need to belabor that point anymore. I mean, the other reason that I'm going to do cri-o is because we have a bunch of Red Hat folk in another cluster at work. And if they ever had to come over and support it, they would be better able to support cri-o than Containerd. The nested Docker container, I already told you. I already went through the whole thing. It's because you want to run Docker inside of a platform. Yeah, if you want to use Docker in there. So I have a workspace container. Instead of having Anton, I used to use a container for that. And inside of that container, I would want to build Docker images and stuff. And, during my day, it was my workspace. And there's a million people that are going to say that's a misuse of containers. It's supposed to be ephemeral, blah, 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 blah. And I agree. But yeah, I'm convinced that it's better to do that in a VM now for millions of reasons. So you have dedicated storage. You can use the actual storage container. You don't have to deal with the ephemeral nature of containers, blah, blah, blah. It was fun. It was like last year, and I figured out how to do it. But I actually had to use this to work, right? At the time, I had Docker Desktop, and I wanted Linux. So one of the fastest way to get to Linux, the 2021 boost is all about that. The fastest way to get to Linux is just run Docker. You run Docker, boom, you got it. And as long as you pull down the workspace container, I have all my settings all set up anywhere with one command as long as Docker's installed. And that includes being able to build Docker images inside of the container. So that's a very precise use case. And that use case is now gone from my world. I have a Mac now. I have VMware Fusion on there. So I put Linux on there. I use it as a VM, and I don't need that anymore. But that is still a viable thing. I think it's more viable running it from Kubernetes, though, because there's a lot of people out there that have access to a Kubernetes cluster and kubectl who may not necessarily have access to a decent, their laptops might suck. They may not have Linux on it. They might not be able to run VMware or something like that, but they can run kubectl stuff. Those people, and they can host a container, and they could actually put their workspace, they could put everything about their favorite Linux workspace inside of a Kubernetes container hosted internally on the registry, on their Harbor register or whatever, and then they can run it from Kubernetes, and they can have access to a very powerful command line anytime they wanted to. And then you can just run every container side by side. Yeah, Linux VM to start with. Right. Yeah, I don't have this problem anymore, right? Because I have a VM. First of all, I have a Mac, which means I don't even have to run a VM half the time because everything just runs on a Mac except for Docker builds, right? So at work, if I want to do a Docker build, I use Builda, first of all. I don't even use the Docker thing. I use Builda and Scopio because I don't have Docker Desktop. And Scopio is so cool, by the way. Scopio will pull down an image from an external registry and put it into an internal registry. It's really cool. And then, then I use Builda to make the container, then I stick it in the registry. I don't care. I don't care about all the other stuff that you do from Docker command line. I don't need it. I just need the container to build and be able to practice using it, And so you understand the need for a remote powerful workstation. Well, yeah, because you got to do a lot of building and stuff. Absolutely. You can't do that from local system. If you have a VPN like ours, by the way, it's also bad, right? So yeah, our VPN is ridiculous. It's like being on a 5K modem. My VPN is so slow, I cannot make localized containers and ship them up to the place. So that means I have to log into the stupid jump boxes that have Vim 7.1, and I have to do things there. And I can't build Docker containers or anything like that. I don't have Docker at all, but I can pull containers out from the wild and put them into Harbor as long as I, go through the proper channels, which means I can make a container and push it to Docker or GitHub or wherever. And I can use Scopio to transfer that container over into our registry privately in the private register, and which triggers scans and everything, so it's secure. And then I can use that from kubectl. So that's the goal. And I'm actually gonna model that entire workflow, which is not for the faint of heart. It's much harder than Docker Desktop. Let's put it that way. So, but if you look, for example, if you want to spin up Arch right away, right, and you don't have Docker, what do? VM, right? Well, what if you don't have a VM either? What do? Kubernetes. You have access to Kubernetes. What do? You start up in libvirt or kubevert, or you do what I just talked about. Okay, so decided to go with cri-o. Okay. Wait, what? Log. All right. So back to so we're going to use cri-o. So we have to install cri-o, and I don't know how. And if anybody thinks it should be sid cri.io, let me know. So here we go. Okay, so we run containers and pods. Kubernetes uses container runtime. That's off. By default, Kubernetes uses container runtime interface to interface the chosen container. Kubernetes automatically tries to detect the installed container runtime by scanning through a list of known endpoints. If multiple or no container runtimes are detected, Kubernetes will throw an error. Yeah. What do you think? Go if you want a job. So if you're just doing it for fun, it's different. If you want jobs, learn Go and Bash and Linux and Python. And you'll get the job. Those are the jobs that exist. The most jobs. JavaScript too. If you want a web job, you have to learn it anyway. C container. I did a whole series about helping people get jobs called The Boost. You can go watch it. We're gonna actually have another session of it today at 2, which is in an hour. So I'm supposed to take a break right now and go have a shower or something. I might not do that. I'll just have a shower later. After this is all done, I can go running. Anyway, Docker Engine does not implement the CRI, which is required. We'll remove from Kubernetes 1.24. Container D, path Unix domain socket, cri-o, var run cri-o, cri-o.sock. And install kubedm, kubelet, and kubectl. You will install these packages on your machine. And we're doing Go programming. We've been learning Go programming for the last 4 weeks. So, as a part of the boost, but we have a bunch of lead up to that. kubedm, the commander to boost the cluster, yes. Kubelet, these are the things you have to install, and kubelet. kubedm will not install. I wrote all this stuff. I've done it already. I did it last year, so we're going to do it again. I'm actually going to do it a lot of times on my VM machine, my VM server. I'm going to practice doing this fast and quickly. See how fast it takes me to get a cluster up. So kubedm will install Go. Well, I don't know who that is. So ensure the matching version of Kubernetes. The entire cloud native world is written in Go. The install commands are on the homepage. Yeah. So we need. Okay. So this is saying install container runtime and then install. So we're installing the runtime and then kubedm, kubelet, and kubectl. This is easy. This is a single apt. We can do that from Ansible if we want. This is not though. So it doesn't tell you how to go to install cri-o. So we're going to go to this link that LBG provided. Copy link address. Strangely enough, we won't be able to go to this website during the certification. But I think that they have it installed already. Does anybody know? Does the CKA make you install a container runtime? Huh. Kubernetes guide will set up. They don't have one. They don't make you install one. They assume you have one already, right? Which is another reason the CKA is bullshit. Because obviously you need to know how to install it. You're talking the CKA has clusters that are already configured and installed? Are you fucking kidding me? How can you call yourself a certified Kubernetes administrator without knowing how to do that? Oh, I am so glad I'm going this route. I am so glad I'm going the on-prem route. There is so much you're not... They'll make you... Oh, God. That... I don't have words for that. That... Once again, certification fails to capture the skills needed. Not knowing how to install a container runtime is an essential skill for Kubernetes. How can they not even cover that? Okay, I'm sorry. Calm down, Rob. It's also the biggest pain in the ass of the whole installation process. Day 2 operations? Really? So okay. Oh, look, there's an apt-get for this. This is not hard then. They have an apt-get. They're going to make us update our keys and stuff. Yeah. That's for Susie. Let's see. Wait. I went to Debian. Install the following systems of the appropriate OS. It's a version to be years of matching your Kubernetes version. For instance, if you want to install cri-o 1.17, it's for pinning to a particular release. Is there any LBG? Do you know? 2 hours and 15 to 20 questions for CKA. That's all they have. That is barely a nod. Oh my god! I'm so glad you told me that. And I paid $400 for that shit. Oh my god! I am. You know what? I'm not getting it. I'm not. After what you told me, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting that certification. I'm sorry, Kubernetes team. Unless you make a certification that's actually worth its weight in paper, then I am not. I'm so glad you told me that. Because I paid all this money thinking, oh, hey, it'll make me get a job better. It'll make me look better. No. I've never gotten a single certification and I've been fine. And I do not plan on getting that one. I'm not the guy who like collects certifications. I'm a guy who sets up $30,000 worth of Kubernetes infrastructure from scratch. And I've had hiring managers tell me in the chat, who would you hire? Somebody with a certification or somebody who actually set up their own on-prem cluster. And I tell you what, the one I'll take every time is the second. So I am not spending a dime. $300, that's like an extra OpenSense router. Why the hell would I get a certificate for that? I'm sorry, Kubernetes Foundation, Cloud Native Foundation. Somebody's going to freak out because this is going to YouTube. And they're like, are you like putting down the certification process in Kubernetes? Like, yeah, I just did. It's also, I'm not going to a fucking overpriced conference. $1,500, really? What am I going to get there? A gold star made out of actual gold? Okay, calm down, Rob. I need to take a drink. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Certification is good for people that don't have jobs. Stop dissing. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. You can get a job without a certification. I know that because a hiring manager for a senior exec, a big company here, said they would hire the person who set up their own Raspberry Pi cluster over somebody with a CKA. Now, if they don't even make it because they didn't get the HR, past the HR. But you know what? If you're getting screened by HR, you're doing it wrong. We talked about this. If you're getting screened by HR, you're doing it wrong because you haven't made any personal contacts with anybody in the company, because you haven't been networking. Learn with Leon agrees with me. Everybody that I've talked to agrees with me on this. If you are going about the process of getting a job by submitting applications to HR, you're doing it wrong. Because when you meet somebody and they say, oh, yeah, let me get your name to HR, and then you send them the resume directly, and then they send the resume to HR, and they say, let me check in on with HR. They may have problems over there. And then, boom, you got your interview, you got your job. You should never have to deal with HR screening because you should be dealing with people. You should be networking constantly. You should be constant. You know how many times I have met, at least twice, that I have met with somebody I've made a contact, including the job I got here from somebody I met on Twitch. And they got me the job. And then they had to say, oh, let me go check. I said, well, I haven't heard anything from HR. And they're like, well, let me check in. And so they went and busted heads over at HR and made sure it happened. Because I'd already made a personal connection with somebody in the company who was the referral. The referral came from within the company. And that is always the best way to go. Whether it's a recruiter, the recruiter will bust heads on HR too, by the way. If you get a recruiter to work for you, they will go through the HR process and go, oh, we assure you they know there's stuff that we're talking about. And by the way, when you're dealing with recruiters, those recruiters are dealing directly with the people hiring the recruiters, and it goes way past HR. It doesn't even go to HR. It goes to HR to check whether you can pass a drug screening or something, but that's it. The rest of it is, but if you're cold calling companies through HR, forget it. You're never going to get a job that way, ever. Penny has been expected to work. Yeah. What are you talking about? Never can get your job, but this is not an option for everyone. No, it absolutely is an option for everyone. I disagree. Networking is absolutely. You could be in the living on a totally remote island. As long as you have an internet connection, you can network. You might not want to network. LinkedIn sucks, but the GitHub is free. Work with GitHub. Put your resume out there. Sign up for meetups. Join Twitch groups. Seriously. And that's how there are plenty of ways that people like, I can't get married because COVID. And then a lot of people got married. Why? Because of the internet. Same thing. All right. I got to calm down. Plus, we have like a whole boost coming up in an hour. So then set version to be. You know what? It's because I took my vitamin B pill. I did while I was having lunch just now, like 20 minutes ago. I took a vitamin B complex, and now I'm like, yeah, boost is on Saturdays now, 2 to 6. Yeah, it's been announced in the Discord and everything. If you didn't see it, I'm sorry. Set version to be the cri-o version matching Kubernetes version, for instance. Okay, let's get back to the topic at hand. What is the way to make sure your Kubernetes version matches your container runtime? So as we saw, Kubernetes 1.21 does not support etcd 3.5 and above. Vitamin Bs are so awesome. They really are. B12 especially, yeah. And this is a legitimate question. What is, it says, okay, if you want to install cri-o, what version of cri-o do we want? So we need to do a little bit of research here. So what version of cri-o is supported by Kubernetes 1.24? Generally available. Kubernetes 1.24 support. Cri-o is the same as Kubernetes? What are you talking about? The same version? No, I'm talking about the version. Is there a version of cri-o? They said make sure you have the right version. So obviously you can set the version for cri-o to get to install the right cri-o, right? So we want to make sure the version matches what can go with Kubernetes. Oh, they actually kept it 1-to-1 in step? All right, that's very good information, LBG. LBG's full of great information, as usual. Yeah, I'm going to give LBG lots of rep for all these great hints. Thank you, LBG. And so, okay. Do you have a reference for that? LBG? Do you have a reference for that? So that I can prove it to somebody if they ask me? I had that happen the other day and I had a hard time finding my proof. Learned that Kubernetes and cri-o versions are synced. So we got 1.24. 2.4. No, I don't use NeoVim. Why would I try NeoVim? You don't know me very well. NeoVim is shit. Only use it if you can't. Tell me why I need to use NeoVim. That's all. I don't want to fight about it right now. I have one question though. Why should I use NeoVim? Very simple question. This said version to be cri-o version matching your Kubernetes version. Oh, wait. I did miss that. Let's go read that again. Good one, Evan. Then set version. It's a very simple question. It's a very simple. I have a very simple question. Why use NeoVim? It's a simple question. I'm welcome to any answer. Set version to be the cri-o version. I mean, Vim is the default on the system, so it's up to you to prove to me to not use the default. Set version to be the cri-o version matching your Kubernetes version. Oh, there you go. It doesn't directly say that they are. We also support pinning to a particular release to install 1.7. Oh, look at this. Oh, see, look what they did. So wait. To install 1.73. Interesting. Okay. So this is key here. I'm gonna copy that little bit of data out of there. What's our path here? Yeah, I forget. Are we in cri-o? All right. So that's another reason you learn cri-o. I have to admit, I like it. So let's do this. Let's say Yeah, cri-o running Kubernetes pods. With the shift install guide. Echo deb. I don't know about this. Yeah, they're doing it right. They're using the new version of this. This is good. This is good. Why is it download from Susie? I mean, Susie's kind of dib in, I guess. Yeah, I'm type. Install cri-o. Okay. All right. Select all. Whoops. Copy. And we just talked about that a lot. Containerd versus cri-o. Yeah, we spent probably an hour talking about that. Were you not there? So, just made sure the package builds okay. Yeah. I joined late. Long story short, Containerd is managed by Docker. It's still the most popular and used in the certification, but I'm not taking the cert now that I've learned what stupid thing it is. And we're going to stick with cri-o because it's way better. It's more efficient. It's managed by Red Hat. And that's pretty much it. I've done a whole installation with Containerd, which got pretty messy because the instructions actually have you install things like Docker CE, even though you're going to do it to get to Containerd. And there are a couple confusing steps in there, so we're going to use cri-o. Cri-o apparently is, last time we tried it a year ago, it was not stable enough to use. But apparently it's come a long way, so I want to try it. It's way more efficient. It's got a lighter footprint on the runtime and stuff. So that's the one I'm gonna use. But that, I mean, that's either one is fine, right? Each one has their own gotchas. Also, I've installed Containerd before. I haven't done cri-o yet, so that's kind of like. Also, we're experimenting with cri-o at work, so we're trying to get off Containerd, and we have a couple nodes that have tried to set cri-o up. So this is actually going to be directly related to decisions that have already been made at work for me. So we're going to go with cri-o for that. We're not going OpenShift. We're just going cri-o. However, that is something worth mentioning. If you end up managing an OpenShift cluster, which is a completely separate beast, that's all cri-o as well. You are using Pomodoro? Yes, I am. Sort of. And in this case, it's just a rough guideline about when I should stand up and walk and breathe so I don't die from stress and high blood pressure. Okay, what are we doing? Make directory CRI. Actually, let's do this. Let's make a directory called Kubernetes, called Kates. Kates. All right, we're seeding into Kates. A dev file, store them somewhere. You don't depend on the SUSE repo. I love that idea, LBG. I love that idea. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to put the dev files in my GitHub here. Actually, I could, and then I could put them in gitignore. Yeah, let's do that. Make directory, cri-o, CRI dot gitignore. I don't even know what they're called. Yeah, because that way I could vet them, and they would be here all the time. Yeah, and then I could push them from Ansible instead of pulling them. You know what? I would have to do that anyway. Right? Because I'd have to pull them in. If I was doing this at enterprise, I'd have to pull them in through the firewall, and then I'd have to install. I wouldn't be able to directly access from SUSE because I don't have apt access to install shit like that. I'd have to actually get the debs because these things are like completely, air gapped from the internet. So Z pomo stop. Old patch versions whenever they build a new one, do they? All right, so I'm gonna put that in here. Yeah, I love that. Decided to maintain local .deb as if pulling into enterprise. PKGs. Okay. You got a direct link? Look at you go, LBG. Thank you so much for that. That is fantastic. 1.25. I'm going to list that down here too. Oh god, wrong thing. All right. Double cube live containers. It didn't wrap, right? From the CRI repos, you have to download them all the deps. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to do that anyway. I'm already thinking about writing a playbook on how I'm gonna download everything and then push them all. You know what I mean? But the first one I just want to do by hand, so then we can write the playbook after that. And maybe I'll have to write my own custom playbook. I don't know. I think we can probably get away with just all the common tasks. I mean, we could just have separate scripts here. That doesn't need to be a single script with tab completion. I'll just make it separate script. So we're going to say pull-debs bash, because I might run it from a Mac someday. Who knows? You can just do it from apt and then get them all out. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. I'm wondering if we can automate that. Just thinking about it. Uh-huh. Oh god. What's going on, Rob? What's going on? How much time we got? We got the boost coming up, right? That's going to be a hard change for me because I'm kind of in this. It's hard mentally for me to switch between different things. I get focused on something that's hard. We're going to be doing Go coding later, and not particularly excited about it, but whatever. Yeah. Is there a command to just list dependencies, or you can just watch it while it's going to? Well, actually, it'll prompt me if I don't do -y. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite trusting indeed. Oh god, yeah. Thank you. I meant to do that and I totally forgot. I gotta go back and read the thing though. Kate components? I don't know what you're talking about. What's a cubic? Ubuntu. What are you saying? Wait. Do they not have later than Ubuntu 22? Do they have Ubuntu? Please tell me they have Ubuntu 22 support. Oh god, they do have it. Whew, that scared me. That scared me. This is case variants because it's not mainstream. I maintain a generic one. Yeah. I mean, you can use it. SUSE is really popular in other places. We don't use it. Nope. I use vanilla Kubernetes. Let's try it. So install cri-o, permission denied, remove caches. That's because these things need to be, each one of them needs to be sudo. Oh, wait, did I not sudo it? Oh, dummy. Runtimes at once? Yes, it can. Not on the same endpoint. In fact, I'm probably going to install containerd on some of my machines just so that I have the reminder to put it. You can have any container CRI compliant on anything. That's why Talos gets away with it too, right? Key store and legacy. Okay, so they are doing it the old way. I thought maybe they were. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to put them in another place when you're doing key stuff. No, we're not using Docker. We already covered that. We spent an hour on it. You're asking all the right questions, though. I'll give you that. Yeah. Discuss the problems with Docker. Yeah. Yeah. We talked about like workstation stuff. Workstation stuff as well. Yeah. Wait, did I already do this? If so, I don't remember. I'll do it again. Some index files failed. They have been ignored. All the ones are used instead. Yeah, I'm not using cubic. Yes, you can absolutely have different runtimes on different nodes. That's a for sure. Okay, so when we do the apt install, it actually should, and you should always apt-get instead of apt, just so you know. cri-o-runc. Apt sudo apt install cri-o and cri-o-runc. We're doing this from the interactively, so we can use apt instead of apt-get. And this should ask us if we want to install, because I didn't put -y, and it should tell us all our dependencies. Or not. Oh, it is. Gotcha. Okay, so conmon. What's conmon? Container networking plugins. Conmon and containers. What's container networking plugins? Do we want that? Oh, no. That's probably like Calico and stuff. I don't want to get that. The Debian package makes me want to cri-o. Lol. Cri-o. I love Debian packages over Red Hat. Sorry. Used Red Hat for 12 years. I am not down to fuck. Do you want to continue? No. Conmon. All right, so pull-debs. We need to figure out how to pull them. But now we know which ones we need. I mean, we probably have to check that every time, but common containers. Okay, so those are the dependencies, and then we need cri-o. So we could say debs equals this cri-o-runc. You think CRI-tools? All right. And I forgot how to pull debs, so we're gonna figure out how to do that. How do I download a deb from an apt repo? Oh, that has CRI-CD. Oh, great. Actually, I'm gonna put that in my log. Learned CRI tools contains CRI-CTL. As I go maxoid. What time is it? Oh god, we got a half hour. Okay. Conmon. And what was the other one? Kate's containers common. By okay. Added pull-debs script. All right, so let's do that. I don't know how to do this, so we're gonna figure it out. How to download that package using apt Ubuntu. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank God for a dynamic mic, huh? Otherwise, I'd blow your ears out. It's getting kind of hot in here, though. Just give me a second. Oh, that's better. Get some nice air going in here. Get some nice ventilation. Link to Susie. The actual deb link. Oh, that's the one. Yeah. All right. Pull-debs. Damn it. All right, so I mean, we're gonna have to go to that link, but we're gonna actually pull something from it, right? So yeah, cri-o 1.2. But does that see? This doesn't have 1.18. Thank God they're doing 1.18. Does it need? Why does it have Golang in here? That's weird. That must be the one it was built with. Yeah. Went to AMD. Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't see the runc. Did you see it? Did you see the runc in there? I didn't see it. I see that one. Runc is an X Ubuntu? That doesn't make sense. I accept it, but it doesn't make sense. What the hell? Okay, here we go. Huh. Runc, there it is. Yep. Okay, so cri-o is in the one and the other's in the other. Okay. Alrighty then. So we can curl this guy. Curl dash. Actually, we'll just do this command from the command line. You know what? We can run it from here. Let's do that. Curl dash L. AMD64 cri. I'll just copy this. copy. No. All right, fine. I mean, it might just be that easy. Okay, there we go. Curl-L. We kind of. I guess we don't want to see it. Yep. And let's run that. Bang bang bash to run it from here. And wait for it to be done. Look at that. That's cool. I didn't do a -o, so it tried to install it. It put the binary like literally in my code. Because I forgot dash capital O. I forgot the low. I usually do slow. That's how I remember it. Slow. Slow. You want slow. Yeah. Run bash again. All right, there we go. Binary instead end, I know. So that got it. That got it. So that I tested my code like by running it from my code to do the download, and it worked. All right, so next is the next one. So actually, let's do wait, what? What? How are they? Stable cri-o. Oh, this one, it doesn't have cri-o. This one's Ubuntu. Okay, I see. I see. All right. So actually that one we can keep just like that. So this one we can do for I in conmon containers common cri-o-runc and cri-tools. Do done. Yeah, it's not pretty. Should we make this pretty? It's a big fucking URL. I can't fit it on one line. Sorry. And then repositories devil cubic. How come you have devil instead of? Why do you have the devil one instead of the other one? Hey, how's it going? I am root. Yep. So curl slow. Any of the package name including. Two five. Mark, how are you? Okie dokie. Has its own version. Oh right, and this one is not. This one's synchronized. Maybe that's why. This one's stable. They'll say that. Okay. The name and the version. I see. Yeah, I see that. I see it here. All right. So this one. I mean, they're all at the top level. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So we're not going to be able to just grab the name. Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So, I mean, I could get a list of it. It looks like FTP. Probably not, though. Details. Mirror list. I'm just looking. No, that's not it. Nope. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hard code them. There's just no way around that. I have to. Might as well just make them all curls. I have everything for Kubernetes. I have my whole rack over here. I don't want to tell you the whole plan. I've been covering it. I've spent hours covering that. Go watch the Homelab and Init stuff if you wanna fast forward through the answer to that. So APT. I don't want to use apt. We talked about that already. We're not using apt because I'm implementing this through deb packaging so that because I don't have internet access on a private internal network. You know what I mean? We're assuming that I'm working for an enterprise and I can't just pull shit down off the internet. I know people think that you can do that, but guess what? You can't if you work for a company that cares about security. And so we're simulating what it would take to get the debs and make sure we have the right debs and then transfer those debs over to the target systems as two separate independent steps. So you have Artifactory internal mirrors. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to do internal mirroring and that stuff, and we can do that kind of thing, but I don't always trust it. Yeah, Artifactory is for a certain type of company that's okay completely signing off all their security to a third party. And my company is not willing to do that. So, that's how you get a SolarWinds problem. Which is kind of related, not really, but yeah, I know. I gotta go get the package list. I was trying to find a way to automate the package list. I don't have it, so I'm just gonna copy the link for the runc. I'm gonna dump them right in here. I could just do multiple curl calls too and just loop through that. They would both work. But this is gonna cut and paste on the command line, so yeah. Call dash s as slow. Or that. Yeah. cri-o-runc, cri-tools. So we're going to get this copy link address. We need conmon. There you are. Copy link address. And base URL to var. Yeah. Yeah, okay, fine. Fine. All right, you convinced me. Yeah. Do. Let's do this. Debs equals. I know. I am rewriting the code, even though I had it already all written. I don't care. I don't care. Sue me. Delete to CRI. Whoops. D to T slash. Whoops. D slash CRI. Boom. 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 There. CRI tools deb. All right, so what else? cri-o equals conmon and container or whatever. I don't see it here. It's not here. We need containers dash common. Where is that? I wonder if that's a Debian thing. Like a regular Debian thing. I think it might be. Yep, I think it is. Jammy. Golang GitHub. That must be that Go thing. Here. Susie, there it is. There it is. Stable element 2 containers, comma 100. You found it? Yeah. Copy link address. Uh-huh. I'm gonna overwrite the base. All that about that base. About that base. About that base. No treble. All about that base. Bow, 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 bow. Do, 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 do. That's a Mr. Robot, that song. I know this is stupid, but I'm doing it anyway, so there. What are somebody chatting at me? Curl dash s slow base. Oh wait, I don't need that if I do that. Yes, I'm rewriting using variables. Sue me. Sue me. For I in debs. Do. Oh, it isn't? Okay. And then, curl. Oopsie daisy. Oopsie daisy. All right. And then this one is, do copy link address. I really don't need it, but I know I broke base out for no reason. Yep. Run. Pull-debs. I put the S's on though. Should I turn the S's off? I'd probably turn the S's off. Those are different repo types. Hey, look, we have debs. Whoops. File conmon. Conmon is a Debian package. File.deb. They're all Debian packages. Nice. Oh, beginner boot starts in 10 minutes. It's time to take a break. So yeah, we're going to take a break. I need to put these on my gitignore. Anything with deb in it. Yeah, dpackage-i, you're good. Yeah. Yep. That part I knew, actually. Lots of awesome stuff. Get anything in the log. Added pull-debs script. And debs to gitignore. We will come back to this later. We're actually going to stop recording for YouTube. We'll have another one of these for later today. Hey, it's October 1st. That's cool. All right, so we're going to save this. And YouTube, if you want to go catch up with it, go out to rdvxrob/homelab. I'm going to git add everything kind of lazily and commit this. Git commit. Add what's today? So October 1st, 22. Git push. So there they are on GitHub. You can go check out all those changes we made if you want to set up your own Homelab lab and all that, reviews and all this stuff. So I'm gonna say adios to the YouTube crowd for now. We'll be back, and we're going to be doing the beginner boost for the next 4 hours. So if you want, we're on week 4 of Golang. If you want to learn how to program in Golang, thank you for coming by, and scene.